I think Johnson should have been in the England squad.
Now, during this transfer window, there has been a little bit of talk about Dimitar Berbatov. It was more towards the very opening of the transfer window. There were reports linking him to a few clubs in Italy, I think it was. And now, basically, what do we think? Do you think we should keep him or should we sell him?
Well, for me, I'm a little bit undecided because I didn't think he had a bad season this year. I thought he did all right, alongside Rooney. And even in Rooney's absence when Rooney was injured, I think he didn't fare too bad, and he did the job for us at times. He scored a few important goals, so I think there's a little bit more to come from him. I know he's getting old, but I'm a bit undecided.
Well, we've seen with the signings of the likes of Henrik Larsson that age is really no factor.
Mm.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Josh? Have you picked a side?
Well, yeah, I'd want to keep Jimmy. We obviously outlaid a lot of money on him, 30 odd million or whatever it was, and I think you got to try and stick it out with a player when you put in that big investment. And I think, as Will said, he hasn't done too badly. Obviously, he hasn't been banging 20 goals a season like maybe a lot of the fans expected, but I think he's become a lot more of a selfless player since he came to United. And I think the partnership with Rooney's really started to develop in the second half of the last season, and they started to work really well together. So I think we should stick it out with him.
I personally, I'm not really sure. I think if he gets sold or if we keep him, I don't think I'll have too great a reaction either way, just because I can see the positive sides of selling him or keeping him, because I think, I like him as a player, but I can't pretend I don't get frustrated from time to time. There was a game towards the end of the season when Rooney was out injured and he played up front with Kiko Makeda, and was getting quite furious with Makeda for not making the runs when he should, or an errant pass, and he's a 17 or 18-year-old, so you've got to be. And I think you've got to be a bit more patient. I think the supporters they get a bit annoyed about that, and also the fact that his laconic nature in the way he runs and looks like he's being quite lazy, and that's just him. But you can understand why other supporters as well haven't warmed to him as much.
Well, for me, I think even though it's been 2 years, I don't think he's been hitting form since he's been here. I think that's what we need to have the patience for. We have to wait for it, because when he does, he's going to be an outstanding player for us. But I can understand people's frustrations with him, and having said that, I'm also open to a move to sell him. Only for me in a swap deal. If we can get another player in, a better player, I'm open to it. But for now, I think it's a good idea to keep him.
The transfer window hasn't been particularly active, especially for those coming and leaving Old Trafford. Now, Ben Foster's already left, as we spoke about last episode. Now, Zoran Tosic has left. Now, do you think it's a good move or a bad move?
Well, for me, I don't think he was really given enough chance at United. He'd excelled very well in the reserves, and I think he only played five games off the bench for us, and I think two games. Oh, was it? Yeah. Well, I don't think we'll ever really know how good he could have been for us, and I don't think he really got a chance.
Yeah, well, and as well, last season, the second half, he spent at Köln in Germany.
And once again, he excelled there.
Yeah, he played 13 games for them in the second half of the season and scored 5 goals, and was quite impressive. I watched him a couple of times. He played mainly down the right, as he tends to do for Serbia as well, cutting in a la Messi, although obviously not quite as good. But yeah,
I don't think we would have let him go.
Yeah, I think, like you said, he wasn't really given a chance, and he said that himself, that he was disappointed that he wasn't really given a go at United. And
especially for mainstream United fans, they almost wouldn't have even known of his existence, because it was a low-key signing and he wasn't really given a large amount of time.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, really.
What are your thoughts, Will?
I think I can see both sides of the story. I think he wasn't given enough of a chance, like what you were saying. But I also don't think that Fergie would let someone go who was of real quality.
Regardless, with Tosic, we've got a few wingers at the club, not really a lot of depth, to be honest.
And left-footers are especially what we need.
That's what I was going to say, yeah, the left-footers. And the success of the Giggsy hasn't really been found, and he was the only left-footed winger at the club. We've got obviously Valencia and Nani.
Who can swap flanks.
Yeah, who are both right-footed.
But obviously they're never going to be as effective at crossing as a left-footed
player. Is he too small, Tosic?
Well, he is very small, but I think that's a bit of a fallacy, really, that you can't be small and play in the Premier League.
I think also, especially if you're a wide man, you don't have to be a big, strong unit, really, to be a wide man.
Think of Aaron Lennon.
Yeah,
Very
all
far off
you
being
need
a
is
big man.
speed and delivery, and that's what Tosic had.
Yeah, and
Now, the next topic, we'll just have a bit of discussion on who we think will be making up the attack in the next campaign. Now, who do we think is going to feature Rooney primarily, as always, but how will Hernandez and Welbeck and those other young fellas come into it?
yeah, well, I think Welbeck's going to go out on loan again. Darren Ferguson has said that he wants to take him back to Preston. He was there last season and impressed there, and I think that first team opportunities are going to be really limited for Welbeck this term because of Hernandez obviously coming in. He's a fair way down the pecking order in any case, but yeah, I think it'll be centred around Rooney obviously, and whoever plays with him. Berbatov, they tend to switch between the deeper role, dropping deep back into midfield, and the man who's on the last defender. And I think Hernandez coming in will play probably exclusively as a man of the last defender and allow Rooney to drop back into midfield. Yeah.
Well, I think that Nani and Valencia are going to obviously provide most of the flair out wide, but also coming through the middle. Hopefully this year we'll see some development in the middle and not have to rely so heavily on Scholes, who of course is ageing fairly rapidly. And but Fletcher's really come into his own, and I think that his development's just gonna keep going.
Yeah, and he's the midfielder. He sort of is the box to box type. He really gets into the 18-yard box and gets on the end of chances where Scholes, the obviously deep lying playmaker type of role, and that's the role that Carrick's supposed to be developing into as the replacement for Scholes. But his
development's really stalled in the last season. Not particularly in the season before, but just this last season. He could have just had an off season, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Now, there's a few other strikers we haven't talked about. Now, obviously, Michael Owen, where do you see him featuring next term? Do we think, if he's fully fit, do you think he'll be mainly playing in the Carling Cup, and he did well in the Champions League in the early stages? Do you think that's mainly where he'll feature next season?
Yeah, to be honest, I
think generally he's just cover. He's just there just in case because he's got the experience and he's not going to lose his head. But really, you can't realistically expect him to start too many games. And from the start, when he signed, it was never an expectation that he was going to start any games.
Yeah.
What do you think, Will?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think he's a player that can come off the bench and certainly do a job. And we saw it last year against City, come off the bench and a great finish right at the end there. And he's certainly a guy that can put the ball in the net. And if we need a goal, bring him on. And yeah, I think he can do a job.
I also think that Hernandez was bought sort of as the replacement for Owen because they're very similar types of players. And this
instinctive.
This is the last year of Owen's contract, I think.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that we may see Owen.
I think it's going to be a good and exciting year to watch because I think there's going to be some new dimensions to United that we haven't previously seen, like with the signings of Hernandez, and I think it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, McKay continuing to develop.
McKay continuing to develop. He's a great impact player, and once he gets in regularly, which I hope he does, eventually gets into the starting lineup, I think it's going to be very exciting.
I'd like to see McKay become a bit more of a prominent first team player. I think he's got the ability.
He's still so young as well, and he's got a lot of development left. And as you see, he's got a real footballing brain, and that's his main asset really. And he brings something different with his heart as well.
Yeah, people forget that when he scored that goal against Villa, he was only 17.
And do you think you don't loan him? Definitely keep him around for first team, backup and opportunities.
Yeah, I think he's going to be part of the rotation next season.
Now that's it for this episode of Red Talk. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.
You went like this,